Most people believe they're doing fine as they get older, right up until a moment quietly proves otherwise. It's usually not dramatic. It's not a diagnosis or a hospital visit. It's the instant you try to rise from a low chair and your body hesitates. In that pause, your real physical age shows itself. I've spent decades watching this happen, and I can tell you something with certainty. Aging doesn't suddenly arrive. It creeps in so slowly that most people adjust without realizing they're losing ground. Over the years, I've worked with thousands of adults who all said the same thing at first. I feel okay. And many of them did feel okay because the body is very good at compensating. When strength drops, you push off with your hands. When balance fades, you grab railings. When flexibility disappears, you stop bending down altogether. None of this feels alarming in the moment. It just feels normal. That's what makes it dangerous. There are a few core abilities that quietly determine whether someone stays independent or slowly drifts toward dependence. Lose one or two and daily life becomes harder. Lose several and the world begins to shrink. The troubling part is that most people don't realize these abilities are fading until they're already in trouble. I remember a woman in her early 70s who came to see me because her family was pushing her toward assisted living. She was heartbroken. She insisted she was managing just fine, and on the surface, she was. She cooked, dressed herself, drove short distances, but when we tested a few simple movements, the truth emerged. Several foundational abilities were already gone. She hadn't failed suddenly. She had adapted gradually, and adaptation had hidden the decline. One of the clearest signals of physical resilience is something that sounds almost too basic to matter. Can you stand up from a seated position without using your hands? No pushing off the armrest, no rocking forward, just your legs lifting your body. Many people assume this is trivial until they actually try it. This movement depends heavily on the large muscles at the front of your thighs. These muscles are essential for walking, climbing stairs, and stabilizing your body with every step. After the age of 60, muscle mass naturally decreases each year, especially if it isn't challenged. The problem is that most people unknowingly stop challenging these muscles. They rely on their arms. Over time, the legs get weaker, which makes standing harder, which leads to even more reliance on the arms. It becomes a quiet downward loop. Research following adults over many years has shown something startling. People who could not stand up from a chair without using their hands were far more likely to experience serious health decline in the years that followed. Not because standing up itself is magical, but because it reveals the overall condition of the body. When your legs can no longer manage your own weight, everything else becomes more taxing. Walking takes effort, stairs feel intimidating. Eventually, people start avoiding movement altogether. The hopeful part is that this loss is not permanent if it's addressed early. I've seen people in their late 60s and 70s regain this ability with nothing more than consistent practice. A few controlled chair rises each day, done carefully, can begin rebuilding strength surprisingly fast. Muscles respond to demand at almost any age. They just need a reason to work. Another ability that tells a powerful story about aging has nothing to do with strength alone. It has to do with how well your brain and body communicate. Try imagining yourself walking backward in a straight line for several steps without turning your head. Most people never do this in daily life, which is exactly why it's revealing. Walking forward is automatic. You've practiced it your entire life. Walking backward forces your brain to stay alert. It requires balance, spatial awareness, coordination, and trust in your body. When this movement feels unstable, it often means that the systems responsible for balance and coordination are no longer working together smoothly. Studies have shown that people who are comfortable walking backward tend to fall less often. Falls are one of the most common reasons older adults lose independence, and a single bad fall can change everything. But there's something even more subtle happening here. Backward walking challenges the brain in a way forward walking doesn't. It demands active control instead of habit. I've seen people who appeared mentally sharp struggle badly with this task. Conversation, memory, and personality can all remain intact, while deeper coordination between brain and body begins to weaken. Sometimes difficulty with balance and backward movement shows up before more obvious cognitive changes. That's why paying attention to these signs early matters so much. The encouraging truth is that balance and coordination are highly trainable. Even a few minutes a day practicing careful backward steps, using a wall for support if needed, can wake these systems back up. The brain adapts, new connections form, confidence slowly returns. Most people don't lose their independence because of one big event. They lose it because small abilities fade quietly while no one is watching. The earlier you notice these changes, the more power you have to reverse them. And that awareness, more than anything else, is where aging well truly begins. Another ability that quietly shapes how easy or difficult daily life feels is flexibility. Most people don't think about it until it's gone. It fades slowly, almost politely, until one day something simple becomes frustrating. Putting on socks turns into a balancing act. Picking something up from the floor requires planning. Getting out of a car feels awkward instead of automatic. As we age, the muscles along the back of the legs and the lower back naturally tighten, especially if we spend long hours sitting. This tightness pulls on the pelvis and places constant stress on the spine. Many people assume stiffness is just part of getting older, but in reality, it's largely the result of disuse. Muscles that aren't taken through their full range of motion gradually forget how to move freely. A simple way to check this is to stand with your knees straight and slowly reach toward your toes. The goal isn't to force anything, it's simply to notice where your body stops naturally. For some, it's the knees. For others, the shins or ankles. A few can still reach their toes comfortably. Wherever you land is not a judgment, it's information. Long-term studies have shown that older adults who maintain reasonable flexibility tend to move more easily, experience less chronic pain, and report a better quality of life overall. Flexibility reduces strain on the lower back and allows everyday movements to feel smoother instead of effortful. When movement costs less energy, people stay active longer without even trying. What surprises many is how much flexibility can return, even after years of stiffness. Gentle daily stretching, done patiently and consistently, can bring back range of motion well into the later decades of life. The body responds slowly, then steadily. One day you notice you're bending without thinking about it. That's when you realize something has changed. Closely tied to flexibility and strength is balance, and balance may be the most underestimated ability of all. It often declines silently. People don't notice it at first because they adjust their behavior. They walk more cautiously. They avoid uneven ground. They stop turning quickly. By the time falls begin happening, confidence is already shaken. A simple way to assess balance is standing on one leg and seeing how long you can hold the position without support. This movement looks unimpressive, but it requires several systems to work together at once. Your eyes provide visual input. Your inner ear senses motion and orientation. Your muscles and joints send constant feedback about position. When any of these systems weakens, balance suffers. Research following older adults over many years has found a strong connection between poor balance and overall health outcomes. Those who struggled to maintain balance for even a short time were more likely to experience serious health problems later on. Balance isn't just about preventing falls. It reflects how well your entire system is functioning. The encouraging part is that balance can improve at almost any age. It doesn't require intense workouts or special equipment. It requires repetition. Standing near a counter, lifting one foot for a few seconds, then gradually increasing the time. That's enough to start retraining the nervous system. As balance improves, posture often improves too. People walk with more confidence. The fear of falling eases. Balance training does something powerful inside the brain. It forces communication between different regions that don't always work together during routine movements. This kind of coordination keeps the brain adaptable. It reminds the nervous system how to respond quickly and smoothly, which is essential for staying upright in unexpected situations. Then there's an ability most people avoid thinking about altogether because they've already stopped doing it. Getting down to the floor and standing back up again without using the hands. Many adults haven't attempted this in years, not because they can't necessarily, but because life no longer demands it. Chairs, beds, and sofas replace the floor, and the skill quietly disappears. This movement is special because it combines everything that keeps a body functional: strength, flexibility, coordination, and balance all at once. Being able to lower yourself to the ground and return to standing means your body has reserve capacity. It can handle surprises. It can recover from awkward positions. When this ability is gone, even minor stumbles become dangerous. There's a well-known clinical test based on this exact movement, and results from long-term studies show a strong link between how someone performs and their future health. The more assistance a person needs to get up, the higher the risk that independence will be compromised later. This doesn't mean everyone should suddenly start practicing floor rises without preparation. For many, that wouldn't be safe. What it means is that this ability represents a level of physical resilience worth protecting. When you work on strength, balance, and mobility in simpler ways, this complex ability improves naturally over time. Most people don't lose these abilities all at once. They let them fade because they stop asking their bodies to perform them. The body interprets that as a signal they're no longer needed. And the body, being efficient, lets them go. What all of these abilities have in common is that they fade quietly. No alarm goes off. No one tells you a line has been crossed. You simply adjust one small change at a time until your world is shaped around what your body can no longer do. You walk a little less. You reach a little less. You trust your balance a little less. Over years, those small choices add up. The uncomfortable truth is that most people don't lose independence because of age itself. They lose it because they stop practicing the movements that keep them capable. The body follows the demands placed on it. Remove the demand, and the ability slowly disappears. Keep the demand alive, even gently, and the body responds. What matters most is not how strong or flexible you were in the past. It's what you ask your body to do today. If walking backward feels awkward, start with 2 or 3 careful steps. If bending forward stops at your knees, that's your starting point. If balancing on one leg lasts only a few seconds, that's enough to begin. Progress doesn't come from pushing hard, it comes from showing up consistently. 5 minutes a day sounds insignificant, but it's not. Those minutes send a signal to your nervous system and your muscles that these abilities still matter. Over time, that signal becomes strength, coordination, and confidence. The change is often subtle at first. Then one day you notice you stood up without thinking about it. You bent down easily. You walked with more ease. Those moments are proof that decline is not inevitable. People who remain active and independent into their later years aren't necessarily lucky or genetically gifted. They simply stayed honest with themselves. They noticed when something became harder and addressed it early. They didn't wait for a fall, a diagnosis, or a crisis to force action. These basic abilities act like an early warning system. When one begins to weaken, it points you toward exactly where attention is needed. That's a gift, not a failure. It gives you time to rebuild before loss becomes permanent. The body has an incredible capacity to adapt even later in life. Muscles rebuild, balance improves, the brain forms new connections. None of this requires perfection or intensity. It requires intention. The goal is not to perform like someone younger. The goal is to remain capable enough to live life on your own terms. Every year from now on will be shaped by the small choices you make today. Not the plans you have for someday, but the actions you repeat tomorrow and the day after. These abilities are not about vanity or fitness trends. They are about freedom. They determine whether you move through the world confidently or cautiously, independently or dependently. Aging well is not about fighting time. It's about cooperating with your body and reminding it what it's still capable of doing. The foundation is simple, and it's within reach for far more people than they realize. The real question isn't whether you have these abilities right now, it's whether you'll protect them while you still can.